Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu signed 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary budget. Federal government shifts focus to distribution network expansion. Plus, European Commission recommends opening EU membership talks with Ukraine. We will bring you details of the stories and more in a moment. And thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with the first citizen of Nigeria, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who has signed the 2023 supplementary budget of 2.17 trillion naira at the presidential villa in Abuja. Recall that last Thursday, the Senate and the House of Representatives passed the 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary appropriation bill after a third reading. Before the passage of the bill, the Senate adopted the report of the harmonized seatings of both red and green chambers on the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill as submitted by the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Solomon Olamilekun Adeola, APC, Ogun West. The bill expeditiously scaled readings in both upper and lower chambers as lawmakers said it was for the benefit of the country. Tinubu had written the National Assembly seeking the approval of the sum of 2.17 trillion naira as the 2023 supplementary budget to address labor wage adjustments, security, and more. Meanwhile, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu will depart Abuja on Thursday for Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to attend the Saudi Africa Summit. A special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajurin Galale, disclosed this today, noting that the summit is scheduled for November 10, 2023. According to the statement at the summit, the president will underscore Nigeria's commitment to attracting more foreign direct investment and expanding business partnerships, strongly reinforced by his administration's ongoing domestic economic reforms. Also, discussions at the first Saudi Africa Summit will revolve around supporting joint actions, enhancing political coordination, addressing regional security threats, and facilitating economic transformation through research and the local development of new energy solutions, all while bolstering cross-sectoral investment cooperation. The president will be accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, Coordinating Minister of the Economy and Minister of Finance, Wala Edung, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Beta Edu, and the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu. Others are the National Security Advisor, NSA, Nuhu Ribadu, the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, and the Chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, Jalal Arabi. Tinubu plans to return after the conclusion of the Saudi Arabia Summit. In the meantime, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has assured the National Population Commission (NPC) of the federal government's support to conduct the botched census in the country. The president gave the assurance today at the launch of the National Geospatial Data Repository Digital CRF's systems and inauguration of the National Coordination Committee for CRFs at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. While calling for collaboration among ministries, departments and agencies of government, Tinubu underscored the relevance of data to national growth. He called on the census experts to deploy cutting-edge technology in gathering data on Nigeria's population, saying the nation cannot afford to lag behind in efficient data sourcing. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of 3 new executive commissioners to serve in the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the redeployment of 1 current executive commissioner pending their confirmation by the Nigerian Senate. The newly appointed executive commissioners include Bashir Indabawa Northwest, Executive Commissioner Exploration and Agriculture Management, Enorence Amadasu South-South, Executive Commissioner Development and Production, Babajide Fasina Southwest, Executive Commissioner Economic Regulation and Strategic Planning, as well as Dr. Kelechi Ofwebu Southeast, Executive Commissioner Corporate Services and Administration, redeployed. According to the statement signed by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the President, Ajurin Galale, the President approved the reshuffling and replacement based on his deeply informed assessment of all factors concerning the sector with a view to establishing a regulatory framework and culture that encourages diligence and rules-based business practice across the industry. Away from that, with over 13,000 megawatts of installed power generation capacity and 7,100 megawatts transmission capacity, the federal government has said priorities would now shift to improving the distribution segment of the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NESI) as part of an effort to boost power supply to homes and businesses. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, who disclosed this during an interactive session with newsmen in Abuja, said the government would work hard to bridge the 7 million metering gap in the industry to boost liquidity. Adelabu explained that after many years of failing to improve the power supply, it was for the government to change method and put in place policies that specifically target the distribution segment. He stated that the policy change would include a complete review of the structure of the electricity distribution companies, the size of the franchise area, capitalization, and tenure of licenses in focus. Meanwhile, the federal government has inaugurated enhanced e-passport facilities at selected Nigerian embassies in Italy, Greece, Austria, and Switzerland. The Minister of Interior Lubumi Tunjojo inaugurated the facilities at the Nigerian Embassy in Rome, Italy. A statement by the Service Public Relations Officer SPRO Adedotun Aregbe in Abuja stated that the new passport processing centers were part of efforts to streamline passport processing and acquisition for Nigerians residing in the diaspora. The Interior Minister, who was represented by the Acting Comptroller General Caroline Adepoju, emphasized the dedication of President Bola Tinubu's government to citizens' diplomacy and the enhancement of services to the diaspora community. From the Red Chambers, the Senate has mandated its committees on ethics, privileges, and public petitions, tertiary education, and TETFund to investigate alleged admission racketeering and other unwholesome practices by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM. This was a sequel to a motion titled Urgent Need to curtail the practice of undisclosed admissions and other unwholesome practices by JAM and universities, particularly the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, sponsored by the Senator Nwebonyi Onyeka Peter, APC, Ebonyi North. While presenting his motion, Senator Peter said the Senate notes that the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, was established in 1978 originally with a mandate to regulate admissions into Nigeria universities through the University Matriculation Examination, UME. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Navy has said it would investigate the circumstances and issues surrounding the controversial presidential yacht within the next 1 week. The committee, chaired by Senator Benga Daniel, according to a statement by his media office, said the probe was in response to escalating controversy surrounding the procurement of the yacht. The primary objective of the probe, according to the statement, is to uncover the facts, dispel uncertainties, and provide the public with an accurate and comprehensive understanding of the situation. Apart from the investigation, the committee also resolved to visit all naval facilities across the country with a view to prioritizing training and welfare of naval personnel and veterans, while emphasizing the need for improved funding for the Nigerian Navy to perform their critical role in the nation's economic and security sector. The committee further resolved to promote the modernization of the Nigerian Navy's fleet, enhance its operational capabilities, and push for naval research and development agencies. In the meantime, the Senate has asked the federal government to immortalize the late Ohinoi of Eribaland, Dr. Abdul Rahman Ado Ibrahim. Ibrahim, a former vice president of the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, died on October 29 in an Abuja hospital where he had been receiving treatment for age-related ailment and has since been buried. He was aged 95. During plenary today, the upper chamber observed a minute silence in honor of the Ehinoi of Ebiraland, demanding that the Federal College of Education, or KANE, be named after him. This followed a motion by Senator Natasha Apoti Odogan, representing Kogi Central Senatorial District in the National Assembly. From the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives today asked the federal government to declare state of emergency against illegal mining in the country. The House also asked the federal government to constitute a special security task force comprising the Military Department of State Security Services, DSS, Immigration, Civil Defense, and the Nigeria Police Force to embark on a sweeping exercise to flush out all illegal miners. Adopting a motion on notice sponsored by the Deputy Leader of the House, Ibrahim Abdullahi Halims, the House urges the government to make a special intervention in the 2024 budget estimates to provide for the establishment of mineral monitoring and inspection offices equipped with qualified manpower and equipment infrastructure in the 109 senatorial districts of the country. Halims reminded the House of the significant economic potential of Nigeria's solid mineral sector in contributing to the country's development and expansion of its revenue base. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has commenced its legislative examination of the 2024 through 2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTF, and Fiscal Strategy Paper, FSP, submitted by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for approval. Chairman of the House Committee on Finance, James Falake, during an interactive session with ministers and permanent secretaries from various ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, emphasized the imperative of the interface in Abuja today. He said the importance of the interface is to ensure the passage of a realistic MTF and FSP before the presentation of the 2024 annual budget. Pledging to provide homegrown solutions to the nation's financial challenges, Falake said the move signals a critical step in shaping the financial landscape for the next few years. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has inaugurated a standing committee on basic education with the aim of meeting the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations and the legislative agenda of the 10th National Assembly. The committee is headed by the former Speaker of the Taraba State House of Assembly and a member representing Takum Usa Dunga Federal Constituency, Mark Useni. During the inaugural meeting, Useni charged committee members and the National Assembly bureaucracy to be committed and deep in their thoughts in achieving the legislative agenda of the Tajuddin Abbas-led House of Representatives. The chairman therefore called on committee members to ensure that all hands are on deck for the committee to fulfill its purposes. We move to the judiciary now, where after 151 days in the custody of the federal government security agencies, the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory today admitted the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, to conditional bail. The court, in spite of stiff opposition from the federal government through the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, permitted Emefiele to go home and prepare for his November 15th arraignment. Justice Olukayode Adebola Adeniyi, who granted the bail, hinged his decision on the fact that Emefiele had stayed in government custody beyond the time stipulated by law. The judge also predicated his decision on the fact that the federal government had completed investigation into the allegations against the former CBN chief and had even prepared the charges against him as far as August this year. In a ruling on the application for bail argued by Matthew Bokar, a senior advocate of Nigeria's SAN, Justice Adeniyi held that it is in the best interest of justice and fair play, especially the provision of Section 35 of Nigeria's Constitution. Meanwhile, the Lagos Division of the Appeal Court has affirmed the election of the House of Representatives member for Ideto North and South Federal Constituency of Imo State, Ikenga, Imo, Ugochinyere. The Appeal Court panel, led by Justice Abubakar Babandi Gumel, set aside the ruling of the tribunal which had sacked Ugochinyere. The election petition tribunal sitting in Mararaba High Court had ruled that Ugochinyere PDP was no candidate for the election because there were no primaries in the federal constituency. The panel, which delivered the judgment on September 10th, also directed the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct rerun election call in 14 wards between APC and Labour Party candidates. However, a unanimous judgment delivered by Gumel today overruled the judgment of the tribunal. Gumel held that the petition was a pre-election matter, and as such, the tribunals lacked jurisdiction over pre-election matters. Elsewhere, High Court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting at Maitama has restrained the owners of ShopRite malls from selling off their assets in the country. The court, in the order that was made by Justice Peter Keke, issued an interim injunction stopping the planned sale-off of the assets pending the hearing and determination of a suit that was brought before it by 3 claimants. Reports say the order, dated November 6th, was based on a motion in which the claimants, Grand Towers Realty Limited, Grand Towers PLC, and Nze Chidi Duru, who are the Nigerian partners to Nover Investment Pty Limited, owners of ShopRite, filed through their team of lawyers led by Darlington Ozurumba. In politics, with less than 72 hours to the governorship election, stakeholders and political parties in Kogi State have signed a peace accord to ensure a violence-free and fair election. The peace accord was signed today in Lokoja in a ceremony organized by the Kuka Center and funded by the European Union. In his remarks, the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Matthew Hassan Kuka, who was represented by Atta Bokindo, said the election is not a do-or-die affair, urging politicians to ensure they conduct themselves for a smooth electioneering process. Bishop Kuka appreciated the people of Kogi State for their resilience and belief in democracy, adding that violence should always be discouraged during elections. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in the 2023 general election, Atiku Abubakar, has urged the people of Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa State to come out en masse and vote for the party's governorship candidates on Saturday. Atiku urged the electorate to use the November 11 gubernatorial elections to defeat anti-democratic forces, stressing that the polls in the three states are not about political godfathers. Recall that Dino Melaye is PDP's governorship candidate in Kogi State. Governor Doyediri is the party's candidate in Bayelsa State, while Senator Samuel Naimeka Anyanwu is flying the party's flag in Imo State. However, Atiku said despite the groundswell of dissatisfaction and resentment about how the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) walked back on the promise of transparency in the last general election, the shortcoming is not enough reason to give up on Nigeria's democracy. And still to come in the news, U.S. to fund $553 million deep sea terminal in Sri Lanka. So stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
For premium broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of our news stories. We started from Africa, where the British High Commission in Uganda has warned of a growing terror threat in Uganda, including targeting of foreigners, as after the U.S. Embassy issued a similar alert. But diplomatic missions warn citizens against attending large gatherings, including worship activities. They also cautioned against participation in music and cultural festivals ahead of the popular Nyanga festival on Thursday and visits to national parks. Reports say Uganda has experienced heightened insecurity in recent months. Still in Africa, the interim leader of Ethiopia's northern region of Tigray, Getachew Reda, has taken the unprecedented move of sacking 4 senior officials. There are also key members of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, the party which agreed to a peace pact with government last November after a brutal 2-year civil war. He gave no reason for firing his deputy, Alem Gibri Wanghit, who is also the TPFL's chairperson. Emmanuel Asifa, the Chief Cabinet Secretary, Leah Kasa, the Southeastern Zone Administrator, Reports say this comes a week after the region marked the one-year anniversary of the peace deal that established the interim administration, which has faced criticism for not doing more to help those affected by the war. Meanwhile, residents have told newsmen that Ethiopian government forces and local militias have clashed in the historic town of Lalibela in the volatile Amara region. They described the fighting as intense and said it included the use of heavy weapons. According to the residents, a plane due to land at the airport today failed to do so. Lalibela is home to rock hen churches built in the 13th century and are registered as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, making it a popular tourist destination. Meanwhile, Somalia National Disaster Management Agency says that toll from the ongoing flash floods in the country has risen to 29. The agency's head, Mohammed Malim, said the flooding has left many people injured and affected an estimated 850,000 orders. According to him, 14 people had been confirmed killed in the floods by the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Agency, OCHA. Recall that earlier this week, Somalia declared an emergency in the most affected states, Jubaland, Hirshabelle, Southwest, and Galmudug. Elsewhere, 17 Zambian opposition members of parliament have been suspended from parliament for 30 days following a disruption of the House session last week. The lawmakers defied orders to leave the plenary after they accused the Speaker of denying them an opportunity to speak. While suspending them, Speaker Nelly Muti described the Member of Parliament's behavior as unparliamentary and a breach of the House's decorum and integrity. Muti said that lawlessness should not be confused with freedom of expression, and defying the Speaker amounted to an assault on Zambia's constitutional democracy. On the foreign scene, the Paris court today began hearing former President Nicolas Sarkozy's appeal against his conviction for illegal campaign financing in a failed 2012 re-election bid. A 68-year-old former French head of state appeared relaxed as he appeared for the hearing in a grey suit, speaking with people in the public gallery before proceeding began. Conservative Sarkozy has faced a litany of legal problems since his one term in office from 2007 until 2012, and has been charged separately with corruption, bribery, influence peddling, and breaking campaign financing laws. In the so-called Big Malian affair, the former head of state was sentenced to 1 year in prison in September 2021 on charges that his right-wing party, then known as the UMP, worked with a public relations firm to hide the true cost of his 2012 re-election bid. Still on the foreign scene, an Iranian court has ordered a 5-year jail sentence against a French national tried on national security charges. Louis Arnaud, a banking consultant, was detained in Iran in September last year and has been held in Tehran's Ivan province prison. According to the family in a statement, Arnaud was handed the sentence by a revolutionary court on charges of making propaganda against and seeking to harm the security of the Islamic Republic. Meanwhile, the family said Arnaud was innocent of all charges and denounced the verdict as an attack on human rights and individual freedoms. The statement described Arnaud as a passionate traveler who had long wanted to visit Iran. Meanwhile, a man was reportedly crushed to death by a robot in South Korea after the machine apparently failed to differentiate him from the boxes of produce it was handling. The man, a robotics company worker in his 40s, was inspecting the robot's sensor operations at a distribution center for agricultural produce in South Gyeongsang province. Reports say the industrial robot, which was lifting boxes filled with bell peppers and placing them on a pallet, appears to have malfunctioned and identified the man as a box. According to Young Hab, the robotic arm pushed the man's upper body down against the conveyor belt, crushing his face and chest. Meanwhile, he was transferred to the hospital but died later. In the meantime, thousands of Palestinians are fleeing south on foot with only what they can carry after running out of food and water in the north of the Gaza Strip. A UN agency said today, as after Israel said it was tightening the stranglehold around Gaza City, the most populous city in the enclave controlled by Hamas militants. The pace of Palestinian civilians fleeing the combat zone in northern Gaza has picked up as Israel's air and ground campaign there intensifies. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said today, adding that 15,000 people had fled the north on Tuesday alone. Recall that Israel Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said late on Tuesday that Israeli soldiers were tightening the stranglehold around the city of Gaza and were operating in the heart of the enclave's most populous hub. Meanwhile, the United States said it opposed any long-term occupation of the Gaza Strip by Israel and any forced relocation of Palestinians from the enclave, a day after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would take overall security responsibility of the enclave for an indefinite period after its war with Hamas. According to the Health Ministry, in the Hamas-run territory, the death toll in the Gaza Strip has risen to at least 10,328 people, including at least 4,237 children. In a related development, Malaysia's leader Anwar Ibrahim has said that his nation will maintain ties with Hamas and will not punish the group. The Prime Minister told Parliament that Malaysians should unanimously back the Palestinian cause. Reports say Anwar was responding to a proposal by U.S. lawmakers to sanction Hamas foreign supporters. Elsewhere, U.S. top European Union officials recommended today that Ukraine be invited to begin membership talks as soon as it meets final conditions, taking Kyiv a step closer to major strategic goal even as it struggles to repel Russia's invasion. They added that the talks should formally be launched once Kyiv satisfied remaining conditions related to stepping up fight against corruption, adopting a law on lobbying in line with EU standards, and strengthening national minority safeguards. Meanwhile, the recommendation is an important milestone on Kyiv's road to Western integration and a geopolitical gambit for the EU, as Ukraine has been fighting against a large-scale Russian invasion since February 2022.
Years later, today is a historic day because today the Commission recommends that the Council opens accession negotiations with Ukraine and with Moldova. Ukraine continues to face tremendous hardship and tragedy provoked by Russia's war of aggression, and yet the Ukrainians are deeply reforming their country, even as they are fighting a war that is existential for them. Ukraine has completed, I was there over the weekend and could convince myself, well over 90% of the necessary steps.
Still on the foreign scene, leaders of the G7 group of countries have insisted that their support for Ukraine will never waver, even amid growing tensions in the Middle East. At a G7 meeting in Japan, the bloc's foreign minister said They recognized that Russia is prepared for a long war. They reiterated that they would continue to support Kyiv economically and militarily. Reports say the group has been at the forefront of sanctions on Moscow since last year's invasion.
Will be meaningful in that it will send a clear message to the international community that we as the G7 stand with Ukraine even while the international attention tends to be on the Middle East. Convening this session will be...
And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Blessing Dixon.
Thank you, Francis Adet. Good evening. It's Business News, and my name is Blessing Dixon. In the news, the United States will lend more than $550 million for a deep-sea container terminal in Sri Lanka, according to officials, with the project seen as countering China's rising influence in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka sits astride the world's business shipping, the Middle East and East Asia, giving its maritime assets strategic importance. The new Columbus West International Terminal will be a 1.4 kilometer long, 20 meters deep, and have an annual capacity of 3.2 million containers. It is being built by a consortium led by India's Adani Group, which earlier this year denied accusations of brazen corporate fraud by a US-based short seller. The Adani facility has an estimated cost of $700 million and is located immediately next to a similar Chinese-run jetty at the capital's sprawling port. The US government-run International Development Finance Corporation said it was providing $553 million in funding for the Adani-led project. In Nigeria, to strengthen Nigeria's trade competitiveness, the Nigeria Port Authority (NPA) is a whopping $1.1 billion for the rehabilitation plan of all the ports in Nigeria in the first quarter of 2024. The managing director of NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, said during a panel session at the 43rd Annual Council meeting of Port Management Association of West and Central Africa. He said, almost all ports in Nigeria need rehabilitation, and NPA is initiating a substantial overhaul, starting with the Tin Can Island and Apapa port in Lagos. Away from that, the Naira continued its free fall against the dollar on Tuesday, depreciating to 1,080 Naira per dollar in the parallel market. This is a 4.85% decline when compared to 1,030 Naira per dollar it was traded on Monday. The losing momentum continues after going on a bull run towards the end of last week, as news broke that the Central Bank of Nigeria had begun to clear some of its FX backlogs. Since closing trading at 950 Naira per dollar on Friday, the Naira has depreciated by 13.68%, losing 130 Naira of its value against the dollar. According to Bureau de Change operators, it traded between 1,060 Naira per dollar and 1,095 Naira per dollar. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. Today is the mid-trading day of the week, and a total of 558.34 million shares in 6,401 deals, corresponding to a market value of 9.79 billion naira, were traded. Compared with the previous trading day, today's data shows a 24% improvement in volume, 80% improvement in turnover, but a 10% decline in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 38.9 trillion naira. 123 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 28 gainers and 24 losers. Japan Gold and Ventures led the gainers with a 9.87% share price appreciation, closing at 1 naira 67 kobo per share. For the losers, Capitan Offshore Support Group came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.87% at 1 naira 37 kobo per share. First Bank of Nigeria Holdings recorded the highest volume of 210 million traded shares, followed by United Bank for Africa with 53.7 million shares and Universal Insurance Company with 43.7 million traded shares. This is all in business news, and back to Francis Adet for the rest of the news. Good evening.
Many thanks, Blessing Dixon. And still to come in the news, Pep Guardiola confirms double Man City injury blow as Chelsea clash looms. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us, and glad to welcome you to the concluding part of our news stories. In how the House of Representatives Committee on Health Institutions has vowed to reduce the outflow of Nigerians seeking medical care abroad and doctors traveling outside the country to seek greener pastures. This is as the medical director of the Federal Medical Center, Jabi, Abuja, Professor Sahad Ahmed, disclosed that about 51 healthcare workers have left the hospital since the beginning of 2023. The chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Health Institutions, Amos Magaji, noted that the committee will also focus on improving the budgetary allocation for the health sector. Magaji added that the committee is working towards ensuring that the hospital gets another land allocation to expand its health services. Still in health, ophthalmologists have said that pregnant women with uncontrolled diabetes and other metabolic diseases may give birth to babies with cataracts. The expert said it was important for pregnant women to have good antenatal care to reduce the risks of pregnancy complications that could affect the eyes of their babies when they are born. Besides diabetes in pregnancy, the ophthalmologist also disclosed that certain infections in pregnancy, like rubella, German measles, can lead to a woman giving birth to a child with cataracts, while advising teenage girls to go for rubella vaccination. They noted that cataracts in children could either be by birth, congenital, or acquired after birth, warning that an injury to the eye could cause cataracts in children. And for more stories from sports, we move over to the Sport Decks.
Well, thank you so much, and good evening. In sports, Manchester City have been dealt a key blow ahead of Sunday's clash with Chelsea after an injury suffered by John Stones and looks set to keep him sidelined for a while. The versatile England international started for Pep Guardiola's Holders against Young Boys in the Champions League last night, but was replaced by Nathan Ake at half-time of a one-sided 3-0 victory in Group G that saw the dominant Holders qualify for the last 16 of Europe's elite club competition for the 11th successive time, with 2 matches to spare, as they also set a new English record by extending the long unbeaten run on the continent. While City did not feel Stones' absence against the hopelessly overmatched Swiss champions, it will be more keenly felt moving forward as City travel to Chelsea before the international break. before consecutive home games against Premier League title rivals Liverpool and Tottenham coming up in late November and early December. City were also forced into a very late change ahead of kickoff against Young Boys, with Manuel Akonji said to be feeling ill as he was replaced in the starting lineup by Kyle Walker. Well, in Saudi Arabia, Saudi League champions Al Ittihad have sacked former Tottenham manager Nuno Espirito Santo following a run of poor results. They have won 6 of 12 league games this season and suffered a 2-0 defeat by Air Force Club of Iraq in the Asian Champions League on Monday. Nuno, who is 49, took over at Al Ittihad in July 2022 after being sacked by Tottenham 8 months earlier. Assistant coach Hassan Khalifa will take interim charge of the team. Well, according to several reports, former Wolves boss Julen Lopetegui has been approached for the role, but the Spaniard is keen to wait for an opportunity in the Premier League. Lopetegui was replaced by ex-Bournemouth manager Gary O'Neill in August after guiding Wolves to a 13th place finish last season. But the reports say it would take a big offer from Al Ittihad to tempt the 57-year-old away from England. The club are also reportedly interested in ex-France and PSG boss Laurent Blanc, as well as former Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane. Well, in boxing, Alexander Usyk hopes his heavyweight world title fight with Tyson Fury will take place in February in Saudi Arabia. The Ukrainian was set to fight Fury on 23rd December, but promoter Frank Warren said that last week that it is unlikely. Fury secured a controversial split decision victory over former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou in the Gulf Kingdom last month. Usyk, who is 36, said he was ready for the December bout, but a new date could be decided before next week. The BBC champion Fury beat Ngannou, who was making his professional boxing debut, but the Cameroonian-French fighter put him on the canvas in round 3 after connecting with a left hook. WBA, WBO and IBF champion Usyk was ringside in Riyadh, and after Fury was announced an arrow winner, the two faced off in the ring. Negotiations for a meeting between them went on for the best part of the year until it was agreed in September. The much anticipated fight to crown the first undisputed champion since Lennox Lewis in 1999 and the first of the four-belt era, and Usyk said the delay would not affect him. Well, that's it on sports. My name is Isaac. Isaac, thank you so much and good evening.
Thank you, Isaac. On our entertainment news, Tupac Shakur's alleged killer, Keffi Davis, is scheduled in court on June 3, 2024 for the 1996 murder of the American rapper. Reports said the 60-year-old Keffi Davis is a former Southern California street gang leader who was arrested in September for orchestrating the Las Vegas drive-by shooting that killed Tupac Shakur 27 years ago. It was alleged that Davis was the only one inside the car responsible for the firing of the fatal shot at Shakur. Kid Davis now faces a trial set for June 3, 2024. Meanwhile, the self-described gang member entered a not guilty plea in a Las Vegas courtroom on November 2nd after delays and uncertainty about his legal representation. Still on the entertainment scene, Brazilian singer Darlene Moraes has died of complications from being beaten in the face by a spider. Recall that Moraes fell ill after he was bitten by a spider at his home in the northeastern city of Miranópolis on October 31st. His wife, Juliane Lisboa, told newsmen that his 18-year-old stepdaughter also suffered a spider bite and is currently hospitalized and in stable condition. Reports say Moro experienced body fatigue and that the color of the bruise on his face started to change as a result of the bite and passed away despite various treatments. Meanwhile, Mori, who had a 6-year-old girl and 1-year-old boy with his wife, was planning a live show in January 2024. However, from that, American disc jockey and music executive DJ Khaled has revealed that he has been feeling inspired lately by Afrobeats. DJ Khaled said he is finding a similar spiritual connection to the one he feels with dancehall. According to him, Afrobeat star Burna Boy would be on his upcoming 14th studio album, Till Next Time, which will arrive in 2024. Lastly, in the news tonight, People magazine has announced Hollywood actor Patrick Dempsey as this year's title holder for the Sexiest Man Alive. Dempsey is famous for his role as Dr. Derek McDreamy Shepherd in one of the most popular TV shows of all time, Grey's Anatomy. He is also featured in other Hollywood classics such as Enchanted and Maid of Honor. A 57-year-old movie star said he was shocked when he heard the announcement, which aired via the Jimmy Kimmel Live show last night. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima. Edit. Many thanks for being there and do enjoy the rest of your evening.